This video presents 5 horror stories that happened to deep-sea divers. Before we get to the video, if you like this kind of content and want more of it, you can support me by subscribing to the channel and liking the video. Ready for the stories, Scary Highlights presents. I was diving in a local pond with a group of much more advanced divers, cave divers, than I. Just an advanced certification at the time. I am leading the dive, as to get used to pressures and responsibilities of heading the procession. They are mentoring me. It is a Texas puddle, visibility 10 feet max, not too deep, maybe 25 feet. The known horrible visibility makes it impossible to navigate by compass. We follow a line, string, put by other divers. These lines go from one sunken item to another. So, I know I am about to hit a small sunken boat. Don't remember which one. There are a few similar, in a row in a same state of decay. So, I am first in the group. I get to the boat and see someone's black army boot sticking out from the inner quarters. Curious thing is, it looks somewhat new, not like items you find on the bottom. Hard to see, too much muck in the water. So, I touch the boot, thinking it is by itself, but it won't lift. Like it is attached to something heavy. I put my hand further in and feel the leg continuing out. Pants, the calf, and I see the second leg now. With a big letter F, right? I turn around and show a sign for the emergency ascent to the group behind me. Everyone has a sour face, no one wants to surface, but it is a rule that if one says up, others in a group must abort, no questions. They wanted me to explain with signs why. But what is a diver's sign for a cadaver? I feel like I rush toward the surface even though trying to stay calm and take time. So, we are on the lake's surface. I have this adrenaline rush, can't breath enough. So, I tell them there is a body down there. I see rolling eyes from everyone once they see I'm serious. A fun bunch, right? So, I describe in detail what I saw. We go down, I don't lead anymore. We make a group search pattern for the line. But once we locate it, we don't know if we should go forward or backwards, as there are a number of boats on the line and who knows in which the body is in, and how far we drifted while talking it out on the surface. Well, we find all boats before finding the original one of cause. So, our customary leader goes into the cabin of the boat and we wait. I'd say he was rather courageous at this point, went right in. Then he emerges from the cloud of muck and tells us all to surface. So, gluing information together from what we learned later on. Turns out the police or some other agency had a body recovery training in the same lake the same day. When they went for lunch, they stuffed their fully dressed, anatomically correct rubber doll in one of the sunken boats for a few hours for safekeeping. Not exactly deep, but I was doing my certification dive for my PADI Basic Open Water Diver Certification. I was at about 35 feet when my regulator started free-flowing. We'd been taught to put our tongues against the roof of our mouth to still breathe in that scenario, and it worked just fine in the 70-degree pool. Unfortunately, I was in a 40-degree lake, the temperature of which adds a bit of stress and anxiety no matter the depth. I was fine until the tongue technique didn't work and I grabbed my backup regulator. When I tried to clear it of water and breathe from the backup, yet still managed to suck water, I panicked. Thankfully, it being a certification dive and all, there was a dive master with my little group. I signaled an emergency ascent and he and I shot to the surface. I was in a complete panic like I've never known before or since. I was convinced I was dead. Once we got to the surface, he was smart enough to reach between my flailing arms and inflate my BCD. After a few seconds, he was able to calm me down, but I was unable to complete the dive. Every time my face went under the surface, I started having a panic attack. Eventually, I pushed through. Before it was said and done, I got my advanced certification, which involved a dive to 110 feet and a number of other challenges. Unfortunately, after that accident, diving gave me pretty bad anxiety, and got to a point where pushing through was no longer worth it. It's been a long time since then, and I'm not sure how I'd react now. Maybe after all this time I'd enjoy it again. Diving at Gordon Rocks in the Galapagos. We had hoped to see hammerhead sharks that frequent the area. This is a pinnacle surrounded by deep water and strong currents. Our guide had us hold onto the rocks and wait to see who came by. While we were waiting, a group of 10 reef sharks were circling above us, while 2 lager moray eels were popping their heads out a few feet away, opening their mouths, letting us know they mean business. Needless to say, I was a bit nervous and burning through my air at a rapid rate. Suddenly, a group of dozen hammerhead sharks came into view. We had not really discussed what we would do. The guide motioned for us to follow, and the next thing I know, we are swimming with the school of sharks. This only lasted a few minutes before they broke away from the group. We began to move into our safety stop zone, where currents were pushing us in different directions when I suddenly ran out of air. You don't get much warning when suddenly there is nothing left. So here I am, 15 feet or so underwater, unable to reach my partner's secondary air, being forced to surface when I should still be chilling. At least the second time I ran out of air was user error on my wife's part, anniversary dive, and I was able to get to the secondary air and get back to the surface safely. Oh, and then there was the time-diving Bloody Bay Wall in the Caymans, where there is a 5,000-foot drop, and my partner was narked out and kept going, deeper, nearly exceeding the recreational limit of 120 FT or so. If I had not grabbed her, she might still slowly be falling into the abyss. Diving is super fun. I'm hardly a deep-sea diver. My deepest dive to date is 111. This incident actually happened in about 8 hours of water. Crystal River, Florida, known for attracting manatees in the winter. They don't let you scuba dive there anymore, and the dive master suggested snorkeling this dive because it was shallow and it scares the manatees off. It was my first set of dives out of certification. I was putting my gear on, damn it. So there's 2 manatees in the immediate area. An older juvenile who was hanging out and loving the attention from the snorkelers and what we assumed was likely his mother. I had a little disposable underwater camera. As soon as I hit the bottom, the big one approached me. I moved the camera out of my face and she just got closer and closer until she literally grabbed the regulator out of my mouth. Luckily, my skills were still very fresh in my mind and I calmly grabbed my octo. But I spent the entire dive trying to get far enough away to get pictures of her. She was a nosy pest. Night dive on the Great Barrier Reef with my partner who was learning to dive myself, about 10 years of diving, and a dive master. First night dive for my partner who had been hearing from the 2 of us about how incredible it is. Night diving is one of those amazing, life-changing experiences, completely different to daytime diving as the sights and sounds of the reef are radically different. Plus, viewing the reef through just the small areas of light from your torches changes how you process the experience. It's exhilarating and incredibly zen at the same time. As we're circling back to the boat, the sharks, who have been standoffish but curious, as they usually are, come in and one has an inquisitive bite of the dive master's fins. Never seen or heard of sharks getting this aggressive with divers, so the 3 of us damn near catapulted ourselves out of the water and cut the dive short. Have never been worried about sharks while diving until that moment. Normally, they're more afraid of you than you are of them, but not this time.